Good morning. I'm Laura from McNeely Garden Studios, and I'm so happy to see you here today at the Polar Bear on Ice tutorial. This is just such a fun little guy. You're going to really be learning a lot of different techniques, art techniques, and we're going to be chatting about protecting your identity. And the chat's really great today. It's not something that you're going to expect. And but we will be learning, if you will look in the guides, which is at the top of this page, you will find several guides. And one of them is this tracer, which I will show you how to get onto your page so that we can get started. But you will also find in another guide that it says supply list and objectives. And of course, the supply list is all the things that you will need to be successful to do exactly what I'm doing. Now, if you decide that you want to do things a little bit in your own way, you are perfectly welcome to use whatever media you want. You can use acrylic, you can use markers, you can use colored pencils, and on and on and on, whatever you have. But I listed all the things that I used because I had objectives, things that I wanted to teach you. And as far as the art is concerned, we're going to discuss how to make a watercolor background that is vivid, but a little bit out of focus. If you look at portraits in photography, especially like headshots, professional headshots, you'll notice that, see how everything in my background is clear? In a portrait like that, everything will be fuzzy so that the subject pops off. And so we're going to be doing a background like that. Very fuzzy, so that your little polar bear will just dance right off the page and into your heart, okay? So we're going to be learning that. We'll be using some ways to get your whites really white. We're going to be using masking fluid, which is something that takes a little practice, a little technique, maybe the right tools. And a lot of times you can get away with using things that aren't necessarily meant for that purpose. But sometimes it's really good to use the tools that are meant for that purpose. And masking fluid may very well be one of those. Fussy cutting with mixed media is something that I kind of talk about a lot. I don't hear a lot of other people describe it that way, but fussy cutting is when you cut a little extra out around your subject. It's a term that's used in quilting a lot, so that you have enough space to get that applique onto your quilt. But we're going to use it in our mixed media today. I'm going to show you how to transfer I'm going to explain a couple different techniques, and you're going to get to enjoy a cartoon style in making this fun little polar bear. And protecting your identity and preserving your strength is going to be the chat while we're painting. You know that I always try to help my ladies learn a little life skills while we're creating. It's not just about the art. A lot of times it's about the whole of you, and you have a lot of working parts. So I like to try to address more than just one. So we're going to put our little polar bear. If you want to name your polar bear, put it in the comments. Tell me what you'd like to name him. I like to name my characters. I actually have a plant on my desk whose name is Stanley. But I haven't decided what my polar bear could be called. So you help me out with that. Maybe we'll take a vote and decide. So some of you are here because you purchased the 2026 workshop bundle that I'm giving this year. There's actually 5 different workshops, and it was a super savings. And if you did not do that, I'd like to invite you to do that and save a little money, but also I'd love to see you here. We're going to be doing 5 different designs, and this one I'm really excited for. Well, I'm excited for all of them, but this one is sort of my Easter, getting in the mood kind of thing. This is a beach scene. We're also going to be using masking fluid for that one. A little patriotic and a little bit of Jesus, a little Christmas stuff there. So I'd like to invite you to participate in the rest of those. Obviously there'll be 4 more. So if you will print your tracer, and of course you're going to have your, if you look at your supply list, you'll see that there's 140 pound 9 by 12 watercolor paper. You'll need 2 pieces of that at least. And we will be transferring this polar bear onto that paper. Now you can decide, if you print it like this, you can then put it behind your watercolor paper and use a light source to be able to see it through the paper so that you can transfer it onto the paper. You can use a light colored screen like your computer screen or iPad screen. You can use a window on a bright sunny day. You can use a lampshade. I like to use a light box. There are all kinds of light box from every budget. It will suit any budget. So you can just look for those, and that will help you get your design on your paper. I have things already prepared in stages, so to honor your time and not take too much of your time. So what I like to do is I get the design on the paper. So this one, I've already got it on there with my pencil. Then I like to take a kneaded eraser, and I just kind of tap it along so as to lighten the pencil mark a good bit. If you rub it on there, it's very possible that it will completely disappear and it won't be useful to you anymore. So I then take my design, and I have these plastic cutting boards just from discount stores. Really, they're kind of anywhere. And I do enjoy the yellow frog tape. And the reason I like that is because it is for delicate surfaces. And it's really nice on the watercolor paper. You do always have to be careful pulling your tape up anyway, but it's a little more gentle on your paper so you don't tear it quite as often. So keep that in mind when you're taking your tape off, when we're all finished, to pull it straight off to the side. I will show you, but to be very gentle and careful as you do that. So I always advise people to watch these tutorials through and then go back and do it at your leisure, at your pace, and just click the pause button and go back and do it. So when you get your design transferred onto your paper and then taped to your cutting board, cookie sheet, whatever it is, then you will be be But we're going to get started. I'm going to show you how to use masking fluid, and I'm going to do it on an envelope just for examples, because I already have our little bear already masked off with masking fluid on the substrate that we're going to use to paint the background. And the reason I did that was because you really need to let masking fluid dry by itself. Overnight is best. You really don't ever want to use a heat gun, a heat tool, any kind of heating thing like that on masking fluid, because it's kind of like rubber cement and it just doesn't play nice with heat. So it's better to lay it down, set it aside, and let it dry overnight. So we are all set and ready for that. But I'm going to put our tutorial off to the side, and I'm going to turn you down so that you can watch what I'm doing with the masking fluid. Okay, so here we go. Well, come on down here. I think, let me move this because it's about to fall off the table. Here we go. Sorry about that. So this is the one that I have gotten where I like the most. And it's QOR Watercolor Masking Fluid. And when you open this, I always tell my students, don't ever open your materials over your artwork. This one doesn't have anything on it yet, but we don't want anything on it, even if it's just the little dried up pieces. I like it because it is very liquid. Can you see that, how liquidy it is? I have used these different kinds. Now this one's white, and you can see that when it dries, it becomes kind of a creamy, milky color, and it's like sticky. You can feel it. I have used these kinds before. This one is a pen that has a different little nib. If I can pull it out. There we go. It's got like a little nib right there that you can change out so that when this one gets all bogged up with material, you can change it out. This one is blue. Also, this one is blue, so that you can kind of see a little better where it is and where you're putting it, how to get it off. I wasn't a huge fan of this. This really gave a tiny, thin little line, which of course has its place. But for this project in particular, wasn't particularly good. Also, this kind, very nice material, but it is a squeeze tube, and I didn't have the control really that I wanted, because as I was squeezing, maybe I would have a little glitch or something. Sometimes there'd be a little bubble, and then I'd have a line and a bubble and a line. So I really finally settled on this technique that we're going to use today. And I really like this particular tool. This is called a roller pen, and let's see, excuse me, ruling pen. I knew, as soon as that came out, I knew that was wrong. It's a ruling pen. And so you can see that it's got this little dial, little gear on the side. And as you turn it, it closes down. Theoretically, as you open it up, the space between those little tongs is going to hold the material in there using surface tension. So if you want a little thin line, then you just push it all the way, put it all the way down. I'm gonna kind of go like right in the middle there, sort of. And this is an envelope. I just was working on some cards that I'm gonna mail out for winter. And so I'm going to use this material to make some dots and a snowflake. So you will see, you just dip it in, it's a liquid, and so you're going to be literally just drawing with this liquid. And you just kind of work with it slow and steady, slow and steady. These are going to be lines, whereas on your little bear, you're going to kind of go around the outline, and then I filled it in a good bit to create a mask so that the paint will not, it'll only be on the outside. It'll only be on the background. So you can see, it's hard to see because it's white and we're putting it on white paper, but it's not impossible. And so we're gonna go around here, and then I'm gonna also put some little dots around. And because of this, of course, you're gonna end up with a nice perfect dot. Here we go. I'll put some more down here. And I'll come back later and paint that with probably some blue paint or something. So this material you need to make sure that you protect. You're gonna put that top back on there and keep it from drying out, because the second it dries out, you cannot use it anymore. Now, you also want to open this all the way up and use a paper towel and put it in between and make sure that you clean this completely. See how nice and it's almost brand new again. You don't want masking fluid from your last project to get involved with your new project. I do keep the container because it's kind of pointy. Protect it and myself, I think, from all that. Now, if you don't want to buy a ruling pen, that's fine. You can have dedicated brushes. All right, you can use these. Just happen to be, this is a flat and a pointed one that I keep together with this masking fluid and the ruling pen, so that I know that those are dedicated tools for that material. And you can see it, and you can see it's kind of, you can almost see how it's embossed on there, but it will, this will dry and it will be this creamy color and sticky consistency to be used tomorrow. All right, I'll put that off to the side. And all right, now we're gonna get to our project. I do like to use this very large brush. We're going to use a wet on wet technique to create our background. And you see how it's just kind of blurry looking in the background. But we have to be able to put this on in such a way so that the paint will flow. And so we're gonna start with some clean water. And watercolor paper has a sizing on the surface of the paper. And so it's kind of a delicate balance between disrupting the sizing and scrubbing too hard on the paper. You don't want to disturb the fibers of the paper. And I'm just gonna go around on the outside of my little bear. There we go. I'm not making it soaking wet, but I am wetting it a good bit. And I feel like that was a little bit too much, so I'm gonna dry it off some. And you wanna give this a few seconds, really, to penetrate the paper itself and give you a nice working surface. It does take a little bit of practice. a little bit of experience. But if you can see, there's kind of a sheen to the paper. And you can see places, like I can see right here, there obviously wasn't as much sizing right there as there was on the rest of the page. So it wasn't quite as shiny. All right. So we're going to, I've already sprayed my paints a little bit, but I see they've gotten a little bit dry. You don't want them soaked either, but you do want a little bit of water in there so that your paint becomes kind of a pasty. I'm going to use this beautiful color, right? You can tell I love this color. It's there's hardly any of it there. So I'm just going to kind of poke it down in there as that water is beginning to soften that paint. And I'm just going to kind of put it over here on my palette. I did add a little bit of water. And you need to be a little aware. Sometimes it's a lot more important than other times, but to have enough paint mixed up. This particular one is not really going to matter that much. So, okay. And I'm going to go back to my larger brush here. And so we're going to kind of go down to about here, and we're going to give it kind of a swoopy horizon. So we're going to go ahead and give ourselves that parameter. There we go. And then we're going to start with our wet on wet. Can you guys, I guess it would be better if you were in the center of the view here. And I'm going to give it a little bit more water. And so when you go over this masking fluid, it's going to protect the paper in that area from the paint. You still have to be a little on your game and make sure that it doesn't lean over in there. All right, so we've got all of our color on the background, and we're gonna kind of let this dry a little bit. We may, depending on how this dries, we may end up with a second coat. So I'm going to just put this large brush over to the side. I'm also going to clean this tape because I don't want it to go up underneath the tape. I don't want it to pool onto my background. And so we're going to pull it off here. I'm also gently going to dab it off of my masking fluid. I've just kind of got the rest of the paper in my hand. Sometimes it makes a really interesting design in the sky if you take your paper towel and give it a little go like this. Watercolor is always going to dry a lot later than you put it on. There we go. Now I particularly like to do my watercolor artwork in stages. A lot of times I will put this on and then I'll go do another task, or I'll go to another design. But you know, for our purposes, we're going to kind of skip around a little bit just so that there's drying time there and we're getting something else accomplished. So I'm also going to get a little bit of turquoise for this next phase here. And we don't want it real turquoisey, so I'm going to add some of this green, just a little bit, not much. Not sure why I started off with that brush. So I'm going to get this. This is a large flat as well. However, it's not nearly as large as that other one. And we're just going to do this with dry on dry. There we go. And we're going to kind of give him a little space, a little pond in which to skate upon. I also left a little space there because I didn't want that to ease into into the sky, although it really won't matter because we're going to add some trees. I'm also going to take just a tiny bit of gray, and I'm going to add it into this turquoise. I mean tiny, because we just want just a hue of change. There we go. That's good. And once again, I'm going to clean that tape off. Now is when we have to decide, do we want this sky a little bit richer? It's still a little bit damp. We can use a bit of a heat tool on here, but you need to be 6 to 8 inches away from your masking fluid because it will kind of warp it. So I am going to hit this with just a little bit. I'm going to hold my heat tool a little bit away. And mostly, it's just up there where the paint is still damp. I don't want it bone dry, but I want it a little drier than this. All right. And now we're going to kind of mix up what we want for our trees. So I'm going to put that right in here. Get that in there where you can see it a bit better. And we're going to come in. I think we're going to do a tall tree here, and I'm going to be dabbing back and forth into a darker color, a lighter color of green, so that we get some variation there. And you notice it doesn't matter if our little bear's in the way because he's all masked off. There we go. And it's just a dabbing motion. It's just nothing to be concerned about, nothing to be nervous. And I'm just going back and forth between lighter colors of green, darker colors of green. This is getting wet, so it's going to have a little blending go into it. I think I'll put another tree here. do tend to try to use odd numbers. This one, sometimes that works out. This one I was thinking, I don't think it's going to end up like that. And we're just simply dabbing this on here. So, one of the hidden themes, I guess, in this painting is really playfulness in winter. It helps you, playfulness helps you have some resilience, because winter can make you really, really stiff emotionally and physically. This little guy certainly can help us be a little lighter, be a little more understanding about things. I'm adding a little bit of yellow because I want some little different color green going on there. I think we're going to end up adding some as well. But when you, as an adult, don't lose track of your playfulness, it really, really helps your state of mind and your ability to manage things in your life. And we're going to talk about 5 different ways that having a lightness and a playfulness about you really preserves your strength. Okay. So we've got a good thing going on right here. I think I'm going to add just a little bit of dark. Really, really dark here. Kind of almost a blue. You can add a blue. There we go. All right, so we're gonna have to let that be over here. Let that dry a little bit. And we're gonna come over here, like I said, as a matter of promptness for your time, I'm gonna let that dry, and we're gonna go to what we're gonna do as the fussy cut part of your design. I put the I traced this off with pencil, and now I'm just kind of lightening up those lines of the pencil with a kneaded eraser. And they're kind of interesting. The more you knead it like this, the cleaner it gets. Like it incorporates the lead that it's picked up into your eraser. You can actually wash these with soap and water, I have heard. I don't think I have ever done that. But it takes a lot. It takes a lot before you really need to do that. There we go. And I just took a red Posca pen. You can do this with anything. And I just put this all, put it all in the color there, just on his little scarf. I think, here we go. And I left some space here, some negative space, as to show the folded part of the scarf there. But we're not going to do any background on this. I just simply had this down so that I could keep it flat, keep it manageable. So we're going to take this off, and I'm going to show you how to take this tape off very carefully. If you kind of fold it down like this, hold it very carefully, and fold it and pull it straight down this way, you will have far more success at not tearing your paper. This one is not as important because we're going to cut all this part away. So I'm going to go ahead and do this a little more gingerly. But if you had paint there and you were, you know, depending on that background to look really nice, then you would go very slowly and do that. So all that I've gotten on here is the red Posca paint and the nose and the eye. I see where you have slid down a little bit. I'm going to pull this back up. I think that might be a little better. All right, so we're just simply going to take some scissors, and I'm going to start telling you about how playfulness will help you with your resilience and your identity in your life as we cut this out. So like I said, there's 5 different things that will help you. Sometimes in your life you get where things just feel really heavy. You can cut this almost right on the edge, or you can leave a little bit of space. It just depends on the look that you're looking for. But as adults, a lot of the times we tend to really brace ourselves. We clench and we try to endure whatever is happening to us. But of course, when you're holding on tight like that, it just prevents anything easy from happening. And so a lightness through play and beauty and humor creates some playfulness, and it actually acts as a pressure valve, helping you exhale and allowing your nervous system to relax. When you feel and you're in fight or flight all the time, everything gets harder. Everything. The muscles on your face get tense. Your skin begins to wrinkle. It's just too much, too much. And this means you're being wise with your energy when you try to release that a little bit. Lightness keeps you flexible instead of brittle. Just like this little bear, constantly making micro adjustments so that he can stay on balance, stay on his feet on that ice. I'm gonna come around this little skate here. And then we're gonna get rid of the excess. So heavy seasons can harden us, and if we let them, we can become very rigid in our bodies and honestly our expectations. I mean, have you ever, you know that joke about the old guy standing on his porch saying, "Hey, you kids, get off my lawn." I always used to tell my daughter, you know, be careful of folks like that because they've been through a lot. There's a reason why they're kind of angry, and you need to respect that. Hopefully get involved with them and help them soften a little bit, but but if they're not, then you just have to go with it, you know. So that lightness keeps you mentally and emotionally mobile. It helps you adapt and imagine and respond in a much better way. You're not so rigid in your thinking. This does take a little bit. It's a little bit tedious, but it sure is cute when it's done. And the The third sort of concept I want to share with you about lightness and playfulness is that, you know, your joy is not a reward for surviving a hardship. You should not feel like you have to wait until it's over to feel joy. The joy itself is the part that's going to help you get through it. So don't, you know, many people feel like it has to be postponed until life improves. And that's not okay. Small moments of delight from color, movement, laughter, you know, just pure awe sometimes is important. So you have to remind your system, hey, you know, I'm still alive. It's time for me to get that much important charge from the joy. Now, I added an extra little part there because I want to put the fringe from his scarf hanging off of there. And so lightness protects your identity when life is heavy, because it can definitely define you. You know, responsibility, maybe grief, just being stuck in survival mode. You know, that totally affects who you are, who you're projecting yourself to be, and that affects how people respond to you. Practicing a lightness is to realize that this funk is the only part, it's only part of my story. It's not really who I am. It doesn't define me. And sometimes that's really important for you to know. You may not be able to convince the people around you just yet until things get a little better, but if you know that that's not you, then it's incredibly helpful. And honestly, lastly, a spiritual lightness is very important. To stay light while things are unresolved, and you know, you're quietly saying, I don't have to carry everything alone. You ever feel like that? Like, I'm responsible for everything. I feel like no one can do it right. I'm the only one that can do it. And that is too heavy of a job for anyone to think that they have responsibility for. You still have to face the battle. But you have to know that there's no reason for despair. That lightness creates a space for meaning. And preserving your strength, staying flexible, using your joy for fuel. These are all things that we've already talked about. You have to feel supported. I'm leaving a little bit of a space there. But having these skills and this mindset is what keeps you from being crushed under the weight of that heaviness that you can feel. It lifts your perspective. It lifts it up so that you can know for yourself what still matters, you know, what's quietly growing within you. It's important to pay attention to things like that. And what hasn't actually been lost. I'm gonna come around here and go over here to his little nose. We're just about there. I'm gonna have to come back and do the little claws and some of the parts in the skates too, but okay, here's a little part behind the skate. We're gonna go right in there. All right. Look what a cutie patootie he is. And we're going to go right in between these little claws. Sometimes if you can't see what you're doing, you can turn it over and see, see a little bit better on the back side. There we go. So see, we're really learning two totally different techniques, and we're going to end up with this, use the same design for two different looks. There we go. There's our little bear. And I'm going to keep these big pieces, and we're going to paint those in another tutorial, and we're going to use them. These tiny little pieces I do toss out, but this stuff is gold. We'll use that again. All right. So this little glitter stuff, I don't use loose glitter very often, but I do particularly like this one. It's got very, very large chunks and teeny tiny little chunks as well. And so, it just kind of gives an interesting look to it. And I will do that with glue, the very last step, okay? This time we're just gonna go around very carefully with our little micron pen. Very simple, just on the white parts, just within the part where you will have your glitter, just to kind of define it. And I'm going to put his little strings out like this. There we go. And his little fur for his hat. So cute. And his little nose has a little spirally place on the inside. And so you have a little bit of a white edge. So what were those, what were some of the things that help you keep a lightness about you? It's preserving your strength, staying flexible, using joy for fuel, protecting your identity, and finding a way to feel supported. All important. You cannot live without it. And so many of us, the most important thing is that we be available for others. And if we don't protect ourselves like that, then we just don't have anything else to give. So those are all very useful ways to keep our own identity. Keep track of what really matters. Meaning rarely arrives, you know, when things are balanced. When we're braced for impact, it just is too hard. So you have to keep a playful attitude, just like this ice skating polar bear. I'm going to go up here to where the knot is. And I'm going to go around his little hat too. So there's our little fussy cut bear. And when we get the glitter all on him, he's going to be super cute. So we're going to put him up here, and we're going to come back to our background, because remember, we were just waiting for it to dry a little bit. And we're going to finish off with that. We're going to add some more. Sometimes if you want it to be a little richer colors, you can come back with a second coat. That is allowed. People sometimes feel like, oh, I'm going to ruin it, but you're not. You're just going to add a whole nother dimension to it. I see my paints have gotten a little drier, so I'm having to kind of add some. And we're going to come back in, add some more layers for some more depth. And sometimes when you learn to think multi-layered like this, like we're doing several different things all at one time, it kind of makes it fun. Like, what can I do to be more efficient, you know, and make this a playful experience? That's the whole point. You know, so that we're not the ones going out and yelling, hey, you kids, get off my lawn. If you see watercolor kind of puddling and you don't like it, you can always go back. See how I'm drying it off a little with my cloth, and that just dries your brush so that you can suck it back up a little bit. There we go. Okay, again, I'm gonna hit this with a little heat tool, very distant from my masking fluid. Show you how to get this masking fluid up. And there is a little tool that's a masking fluid eraser that you can get. You really don't need this, but if you want, you can very gently grab the edges, okay? And this is something that's going to take some time. You have to be kind of careful. I'm just going to go ahead and grab it with my fingernail. Now, you wonder, why did I put so much masking fluid there? It just seems like a waste, right? But if you don't want it very delicate like this one, see, this is already getting tacky. But a large space like this will come up almost in one piece. And it is just a joy. It's a joy to try to do. Whereas if it's really dainty and just a little skinny line, then you don't have as much leeway when you're putting in the background. And it takes a lot more effort, a lot more time. You do want to be very careful not to pull up your paper. And because you want the fibers of your paper to still have some integrity. You don't want this big ripped section. You see how I got green from that tree on his nose? But we're going to kind of pull this off. There we go. And now it's all clean again. Now I'm noticing that a little bit of the fibers of the paper are coming up. And I know why. And I want to tell you why so that you can make an informed decision. I put this masking fluid on here a couple days ago so that I would be ready. I knew I had some things I had to do yesterday, and I knew I would not be able to do it. So because it has sat on the paper a little longer than the minimum that it needed, then it is attached in some places a little more than I would like. But it's not terrible. It's going to be fine because this design is a little white bear. So we're going to use the color of the white paper to work as a negative space and use it as highlights. And in this case, his white fur, right? I think you can hear it. It's kind of it's like rubber. You can hear it kind of pulling off. And see how it's sticking to itself? It's going to be one giant wad when we get done. Masking fluid is a little bit technical, but when you do it right, oh, it saves you so much time and effort. All right. So we did it. It came off all in one piece, and I can't even pull it back apart. It's so hard. It's so stuck to each other. Now, if you notice, there's a place right there where that part of that tree came off, and that's okay. We're just gonna go right in here, and we're gonna add it back. Okay. Also, I notice that there's a place right here that it lifted and the paint got up underneath it. So I'm going to paint that in with my Signo Uniball. And that might take more than one coat to cover up, but you can work with it. Here's one little piece of snow apparently I got. See that? I took that masking fluid off and made a perfect little piece of snow, which we're gonna add anyway. So, just like this one, we're gonna go back and we're gonna add this little bear in here, just like we did. Since we have this perfectly white. Now if I painted this, if I put this red on top of this blue, it would not be pretty. It would not be crisp and pretty like this. It would be more of a, not really even a purple, almost a brown. In fact, I can draw it over the edge a little bit and you can see. So see, if I had painted the whole thing, it would have looked like that edge. It wouldn't have been bright and pretty. All right, just think of this scarf as shapes. So we have a rectangle here. We have a little different shape here. Same thing here. Leave that little white space. You could certainly paint this in too if you like, if you prefer. There we go. We'll go back to our micron pen. Can use this as a little a little irregular shape there. I'm gonna put his little eye in. Leave a white space for the whites of his eyes. And we're gonna come around and create his little nose. Just like with the fussy cut one, I'm gonna leave just a tiny bit of white space, just so there's a little more contrast between the black of the pen and the in the background. Cartooning is just really, you talk about creating a lightness in your life. It's just fun. And this other little foot. Has anybody thought of a good name for your polar bear yet? And we'll put his little claws here. And the fringe of his scarf. Okay. And you can certainly add any other details that you want. You can put some other lines in the ice. You can put, certainly give him a place where he's skating. And you will be putting the glitter. You can use glitter glue if you'd like. That obviously is not going to end up mattering. We're going to put the glitter there. But I'm going to go ahead and take this off so that you can see. Carefully taking this off. And you see how easy this tape comes off? I do love the yellow frog tape. So getting back to our our feeling of lightness and playfulness with our polar bear. It matters. It matters that you have the right attitude about things in life. You have to be serious, but you can't be too serious. And I created this image as a silly little polar bear to lighten the mood in January. January can be very tough. It often is a cold environment. Sometimes even in the tropics there are cold days, and that tends to lead to low energy, post-holiday exhaustion, some emotional heaviness sometimes. You may be falling apart with your resolutions. I heard that January 9th is is when a lot of people start losing their faith in their resolutions. I thought that was amazing that it was such a short period of time, but that just goes to show that they probably put forth something that was a little bit too lofty. And there too, if you have a playful attitude, so you realize that you gave yourself too big of a resolution. So what people don't need is for someone to tell them, look, you need to try harder or be more disciplined, push through it. It's not going to happen when you're in that frame of mind. It's just not going to happen. So what you need is to tell yourself, tell your friends, you're allowed to move gently. You're allowed to, go at your own pace, make progress, and give yourself a little grace. Give the people around you a little grace. And so we learned two totally different styles of the same design. We learned to give ourselves a little grace and playfulness to be able to preserve your strength, keep your identity, stay flexible with your ideas. Make sure you're laughing. Make sure you're being a little lighter in your decisions. And, don't get crushed under the weight of this heaviness that can happen in the wintertime. And make sure that you are where you feel supported. I'm going to pull this up so you can see a little bit better. There we go. This was our original with the glitter. This one was painted all on one paper with the masking fluid. Of course, you're going to add your glitter. This is super fun because this little guy you can position in any place. I even like them off the edge here. To me, you have a lot more versatility when you have them separate. I can even see making a slice in your page here where you could make him a little handle and you could actually make him move across here. But how fun is that, right? That is certainly a way that you can keep yourself light and happy. So I'm going to bring it back up here. So if you liked this style, if you liked what we did and you learned a lot and you felt supported emotionally where you can understand some of life's lessons, I have a membership called Art and Answers where we do this every month. Super fun. It's a wonderful community, and I'd like to invite you. Anytime that you'd like to come and join us, you just let me know. When you finish your your design, your version of this design, certainly come back in the group and post it. I'd love to see it. Thank you so much for coming. And if you want to be part of the rest of the 2026 workshop bundle, the next one is going to be Perfect Promise, Pink Promise, which is a cross and flowers and some bees. Super fun. So thanks for coming today, and I will see you soon. Bye.